What's going on? This is a how-to video on how to pull an engine out of an e36. This applies to any 6-cylinder e36. 318s are going to be very similar. So what I'm going to do is show you all the connections, tell you what tools you need, and just basically do a brief overview on how to get an engine out quickly. The easiest way to do this, because I've done it lots of different ways, especially if you're at your house, first thing you want to do is remove the front clip. I'm not going to show you how to do that because there's tons of videos on YouTube on how to, so we're going to skip that. I'm going to show you the important stuff. So, first thing you're going to want to do when you get the front clip off, this wire goes over, these wires go over here. You've got one going to your AC compressor. You've got one going over here also for AC. You've got a couple headlight clips, your windshield wiper, and your hood switch. And then over here, you have this is the horn, not AC. And once you get all those disconnected, literally just follow the connections, disconnect all of them, flop it out of the way. Next thing you're going to want to do, if you haven't already done so, is remove the radiator. It is a 6mm if you would like to do it that way, or just a flathead. You've got one hose clamp here, one hose clamp here, and you have to remove the hose from the reservoir, snake it out through the plastic, and that's what this is. So this comes under the radiator through the plastic and hooks up to your fill reservoir right here. So disconnect that, go ahead and fold that out of the way. And as far as wiring, the easiest way to do this, hands down, is just like I've done it. Okay, so you remove your HVAC panel, which is right here, and that looks like this. So beforehand, this is going to be like that. This comes off, it's literally just clips. So you pull these back right here, pop this off. There are two screws, one on each side, here and here. They're Phillips. Remove those. Get this out of the way. This is screwed through that to that. So there are also two Phillips head screws that go from the HVAC panel into your wiring loom. Remove those. The next thing you're going to want to do is remove what's called the X20 connector, which is this right here. This is basically the heart and soul of the wiring harness. So you're going to remove that. This is your MAF. Disconnect your mass airflow sensor, which is the sensor that sits right here and measures the air.
This one is really long and extended. Yours won't be like this because this car used to be supercharged, right. So the MAF was much farther down.
Stock, it should be about right here. The second thing, if you want to come over here, there is an emissions purge valve right here. So this connector, unplug it from there, boom. There's one positive wire right here. It's a 13mm nut. Go ahead and unscrew that, and then all of this right here should flop over. And since I haven't done this, I'll go ahead and show you how to do this. The last thing on that side are your main relay, your fuel pump relay, and I believe one of them's an unloader, but they're just clips. So put a flathead screwdriver in there and just push this that way and pull up, and the whole thing will flop over. So once you've got that done, you are done with the driver's side of the car. Move over to the passenger side. First thing to do is to remove your ECU from the panel. Again, two screws, panel comes out. It's, well, I think it actually may be more. Yeah, right, so 1, 2, 3, 4 Phillips head screws. We'll remove the cover panel for here. So you're gonna take that out. And then there are mounting brackets in here that I believe use 10mm or screws, I can't remember, but then your ECU will literally just slide out. You don't need to remove it at that time, you can kind of just let it sit in there. And the next thing you're going to do is remove the ground. This right here is a ground. It's connected right next to the strut tower on this nut. That's a 10mm. Pull the 10mm off, remove that. This is the diagnostic plug. It is also usually connected about right here. And you can, same as what the relays are, you just push the tab in, slide it off. And the very last thing is going to be disconnecting your positive terminal right here. This is a 13mm. Connected to what I like to call the hot block. So 113, 110, these are both positive. So if you guys are looking at this for a wiring reference, that's a good way to do it. Just positive, positive, negative. Pretty easy if you're doing an E30 swap, which is what we will be doing with this. And then finally, as far as wiring is concerned, you just have one ground wire connected to your engine mount right here, or your engine arm rather. I haven't done it yet, but it's 113mm. Disconnect it from the frame rail, so you have it with your engine. And as far as wiring is concerned, that's everything on the engine side. And here in a minute I'll show you everything to do on the trans side as well. So I showed you guys all the wiring up top, so I'm going to show you the wiring below now. Only two things you got to disconnect. Very easy. So you got this little guy right here. This is your O2 sensor. You need to remove your exhaust anyway, so that should probably already be disconnected. The other thing you need to disconnect is your reverse sensor, which is right here. It's just a 2-prong clip with the wire at the top. Bam, pop it off, and that's good. These wires over here, if you guys are wondering, these go to your engine harness. So you can actually leave these on here. And then aside from that, all the exhaust needs to come off, drive shaft, everything else. But we will get to that in a minute. The next thing you're going to want to do is remove all 3 gleebo bolts, or 6 if you want to remove the gleebo. But it is an 18 millimeter and an 18 millimeter wrench. So I stick the wrench behind here, and I use an impact with a kind of a longer extension on it. Take those 3 bolts out. And then right here is where your center support bearing goes. It's 2 13 millimeters. Remove those. And then back here, you've got 4 16 millimeter bolts on your differential. Actually, E36s have several different styles, so you could have the 8-bolt CV style, 6-bolt CV style, which you're going to need an external torque socket for that. Okay, so 4 bolts here, all 16s. 2 13s here, 3 bolts here. Just make sure if you're only removing 3, you need to skip every other one. It doesn't really matter what side you remove, but I recommend removing the ones from the output flange so your gleebo stays with your drive shaft. Right there. The next thing you're going to want to do, and a lot of people will probably argue that this is not good, but this is how I do it every time and I've never had any problems. Remove all 4 transmission mount bolts, at which point in time your transmission is going to drop down, and that will give you easy access to remove your linkage, which I'm going to show you right now is just 1 clip right here you remove from your shifter. So you've got like a circ clip that goes on right there. You just pull that out and pull it to driver's side, and it'll flop down. And then on the front is what's called the bitch clip. That's what everybody on the forums calls it, so that's what I'm going to call it. Sorry if that offends you. Which is just a clip right here. So the easiest way to do it is you got one of 2 ways. I usually, if I can get access to it, will use a big screwdriver, and then what you want to do is in its factory position it will be down like that. Stick it up, get it under the far end of it, pry out a little bit, and then up, and the whole clip will flip up. If you don't have any luck with that, the other easy way to do it, which I'll show you, I call it a booger picker. So looks like this. You can get them at Harbor Freight. I think they're like $5. They're really cheap. And then while the clip is in there, what you want to do, I'll visualize this for you. Oh, this one's actually broken. That's why it was so easy. Normally there's another side to it right here. So what you want to do is slide the clip into that side, or I'm sorry, the pick into that side, and that'll pry the lock mechanism out. So you're going to go in like this and then pull up, and that'll flip the clip up, and then you can remove it. So that is transmission side, what you need to do. The very last thing you need to remove on the transmission is the slave cylinder. So they're 2 13 millimeter nuts, and I like to use a long extension, a wobble, and an impact. Makes it really quick, really easy. So 1 on bottom, 1 on top. Remove those, and then your slave will slide all the way out. So 1 2. There's those. Make sure to hold on to these, don't lose them, because they are, oh, excuse me, they're oval nuts. It's like a locking nut. But anyway, so take those 2 bolts off, and then pull your slave towards the rear of the vehicle, and then down. So there it is. Bam. And then at that point, you're done with transmission stuff. Okay, final steps of the engine pull. I'm going to show you some of the last things we need to do in order to get this out of here. Thing number 1, since I'm standing right in front of it, the power steering needs to be removed from the rack. And I will warn you ahead of time, as you can tell, this is a very dirty job. So wear gloves, have a drip pan ready, don't mess up the environment, you know, all those good hippie things. So you've got 2 bolts on your power steering pump right here. The lower one is a 22 millimeter. These are banjo bolts, so don't lose them. You can't just replace them with anything off the street, meaning it's got a hole in it for pressure to flow, or for fluids to flow, sorry. The other one is a 19 millimeter, and it's at the top right here. Again, a set of those Harbor Freight wobble sockets will make your life a lot easier on this job. So remove these 2, and then what I do is I remove the reservoir, which is right here, from the bracket, which I'll show you here in a minute, but it's just one 10 millimeter bolt, and then you can wiggle it down and kind of get it out of the way, so that way when you lift the engine up and pull it out, it's not getting snagged on anything. Since we're down here, I'll show you the ground strap I was talking about earlier, which is right here. So this little guy is a 13. You can just get it with an impact from right here, pretty easy. Take it off, get it out of the way, and then you're going to want to come around over here and you're going to take your engine mounts off. Now if your engine mounts are replaced, sometimes the bolts are different sizes, but the factory ones are 18s. So one nut here, as you can see, it's already been removed. And then come over to the other side, and you're going to remove the same nut from right here. And if you would like to, you can remove them from the top as well, but that's a little bit more labor intensive. It's easy if you just get under here and get them off real quick from the bottom. All right, now we're going to lower the car down, and I'll show you the rest of what needs to come off. Okay, so car's down. I'm going to show you some of the rest of the stuff you need to remove. Boom! The first thing a lot of people forget about is the throttle cables. So, I've already removed them to make it easy to show you, but what you need to do is this clip right here, you press these in, and then you push either the throttle blade back or pull it forward, and it will come unclipped, and it'll still be in here. And then after that, these clips actually separate to get the wire through, like that. So then once you've got it out, you rotate it out like this and pull it forwards, and it'll unclip. Once you've got that done, go ahead and undo it from your actual throttle blade, which is right here, and then you want to remove it from the other side. So the bushings on this one were actually cracked, and most of the times it's very hard to not ruin them, this plastic piece here, or I'm sorry, rubber piece. So if you're reinstalling your engine, go ahead and order a set of these ahead of time, because you're most likely going to have to replace them. Okay, so that's off. Next thing we want to do, again, Harbor Freight, go get one of these. It will save you a lot of time on this job. You just want a really long, flat screwdriver. So next up is fuel. I chose to do it right here. It was the easiest spot for me to access at the time. So this is your fuel supply. Comes in, it's just a hose clamp. Undo that, pop the line off, and then you want to disconnect your return fuel, which is right here. You can either disconnect it right here if you have a whole soft line, or you can disconnect it. Let's see if I can find it. Where did it go? There's a hard pipe on a lot of these cars. Here it is. That runs down below. So right here, it's usually, use a screwdriver to point it out. The line comes up in this area and it's connected to this hard line. I apologize for taking it off ahead of time, but it would make it easier for visuals. So you want to find this line and disconnect it. I actually did both of them so that this could actually, you know, move around pretty easily. And it just makes gives you a little bit more room. All right, and then lastly, the next thing that almost everyone forgets if they've never done this before, or just doesn't know about or doesn't think about, is the heater core hoses. So there are 2 hoses that you need to remove. The first of which is this one on the far left here. I have not removed it, but it is loose. So once I get a little bit more room here, I'm gonna go ahead and pull that hose off. And you can get yourself more room between the firewall and your engine by taking your transmission mount off, and once all your linkage is disconnected, jack the back of your transmission up, and it will give you more room to access these. So this is the first one. The second one you need to remove is kind of a pain. So it's all the way down here. There are 3 hoses on this right here. So look for this plug and these 2 little cylinders, and then on the bottom of it, this is where the screwdriver comes in handy. You can use it as, you know, your screwdriver sniper rifle, and you want to get this bottom one off. So right here you can see where I'm connected. This is the second heater core hose that you need to remove. Those are the only two that actually go to the engine, so don't worry about any of the other ones. They will stay with the car. This vacuum line right here, this goes to your brake booster. Just pull it off. Slides right off. And once you have those off, that should be everything, and your engine should be ready for removal. So let's see if I forgot anything. Okay, so the engine is out, as you can see. Very straightforward. I don't think I forgot anything. The only thing I want to add is to make your life easier, I would highly recommend completely taking the engine mounts off. It frees up a lot of room between the chassis rails here. And also, as you can see right here, taking off the steering linkage, which is very easy. It's two 13mm bolts, and the whole linkage, just hit it from the end, and it'll slide up and pop right off. And then after that, the engine just came right out. But yeah, super straightforward. So now this S50, if you guys are interested, check out our channel. This S50, along with the one we just pulled out of that TI, are both going to be going into E30s for S50 swaps. So if that's something you guys are looking to do and you're doing research on how to get the engine out, we're also going to be doing a DIY video on how to S50 or S52 swap your E30. So stay tuned for that.